It's time for Michigan's newest sports talk show, Mitten Madness.
And here he goes. Defense win championship.
Michigan sports talk from here in Battle Creek. The latest stories, the biggest games, all across the Mitten State.
That's not something you play with.
Streaming live and on demand on the 95.3 WBCK app. Here are your hosts, Jacob Harrison and Da'Jzon Hughes.
Hello there, good morning, welcome in. It's Mitten Madness on 95.3 WBCK. Jacob Harrison back here alongside Da'Jzon Hughes to talk all things Michigan sports, as well as the namesake of the show. March Madness is nearing its end by, I think, Monday, right? That's when everything will be all settled for March Madness. So we'll enjoy that over the weekend. I'm also going to enjoy WrestleMania. Maybe we can talk about WrestleMania a little bit. I don't know. We'll see where things take us. We've got a lot to talk about. We've got our picks at the end of the show. Of course, as always, though, going to start it off by asking you, DJ, how you doing, man?
Not too bad. You know, getting into the best part of the year, spring. Tons of lacrosse for me to watch. Tons of lacrosse for me to coach and experience. That's always fun. The March Madness tournaments, both men's and women's, have been absolutely phenomenal. Michigan hockey coming around and give me a heart attack all season and then do what they do best in the best part of the year. I look like a fool after talking about the Tigers all last week. So other than being tired, I'm on top of the world.
Did you talk more trash about the Tigers last week? Because, I mean, it seems every week we talk about the Tigers. It's like, I mean, there's reason to expect they might be good, but it's the Tigers, and here we are. They're 6-1. We'll talk about them here in just a bit. That's where we're going to get started. I'm doing pretty well myself. As we're talking, I'm celebrating my 30th birthday, so yay me. I don't know. Walked into my office this morning and had 250 balloons in my office, so.
Yeah, they filled up more than half of this garbage can sitting next to me.
Yeah.
So, yes, very special. Happy birthday to you.
Appreciate it. All right, let's get started with the Detroit Tigers. So, we joked about it because a lot of teams are playing a little bit better to start the season than maybe you would anticipate, like the Pirates, right? I'm a Pirates fan by proxy, just because I'm a fan of all Pittsburgh sports, but I do also have a huge soft spot for the Detroit Tigers. So don't get me wrong, I'm kind of a fan of two teams. When it comes to Major League Baseball, though, I'm not the biggest baseball guy. And the Pirates are 6-1, and that's like, come on, the Pirates are not very good. They started last season a little hot just because they had McCutchen back, and then they eventually settled into being the same old Pirate. When you look at the Tigers, who played very well all throughout Spring League, and then we get going, and they sweep the Chicago White Sox. They did have to go into extra innings, and one of those win 7-6 in 10 innings. And then they win the series against the Mets. Now, granted, you don't want to lose to the Mets in any capacity, and that's exactly what they did Thursday night, and they lost 2-1 despite leading 1-0 at the top of the 9th inning. Funny thing, I was picking up a pizza at Jets, and that was on the television, and I saw the last strikeout from for the Tigers at the top of that inning, and it was on a 3-2 count with two guys on the base, and it's like, it would be nice to get those guys in and bump your score up, but I mean, all things are kind of pointing in your direction. Just get 3 outs, win the game, go home, and continue on with this fun season. And that didn't end up being the case, but that's the nature of baseball. Things just kind of happen that way. As we're talking, the Tigers are playing the Oakland A's, and that game is scoreless at the moment, but that's not very relevant to the listeners. DJ, just impressions, man, from those first couple of outings. I know they've got this series with the A's. They should take that. The A's aren't very good. And then they follow that up with Pittsburgh. So it really does seem like they could get off to a pretty torrid start. It might just be a more matter of consistency over longevity as the season progresses.
Yeah. What I really like about this is that the bats are going, right? We can look at a lot of these games. Sure, first game of the year I pretty much excuse, but very happy with a 1-0 victory. The very first game of the season, you get a victory. That's always good, whether it's 1-0 or 20-0. Whatever the score is, a win is a win. But then the very next game, you give up 6 to the White Sox. That's troubling. The White Sox are arguably the worst team in all of baseball right now, and you gave up 6 runs. That means Skubal is a great guy to start off the pitching rotation. Great number one, but behind that, we don't really have a lot. And that's going going to be a big problem moving forward. You know, we squeeze by 3-2 the very next game and sweep the White Sox, take that momentum in, start off very well against the Mets 5-0, and then you have 2 postponed games, come back, win 6-3, and then you drop the one last night 2-1, and now you're in a tie game with the A's, which, you know, obviously we're speaking right now. You guys already know the outcome of that, but they're starting to slip, in my opinion, into some of what we've seen from them the past couple of years. But I think that's due to mostly depth, and some guys on this team are just young and have to get used to MLB baseball and get caught up and understand what it's like to be in the big leagues, and development comes with that as well. So they're in a good position for where they've been the last couple of years, but I definitely didn't see a 5-1 start to the season coming about. It's just the bats are going, though. That's the most exciting thing about it, is they're able to score runs right now.
I think the biggest thing for Tigers fans, and I think they're probably going to do a good job of this, is to not get too full of yourselves and don't think, because I don't necessarily want to compare it too much to what's going on with the Red Wings, because obviously this is a long season and it's just getting started. It's fun to be excited about what the Tigers are doing, and hopefully they can just transition all of this into momentum. Right? I mean, you've got promising pieces here with Skubal and Baez and, you know, everything else, but do recognize who we're starting the season against. You get a pretty lucky draw with drawing the White Sox, the Mets, the A's, and then the Pirates to open this thing up. And even then, I mean, that Pirates game is on the road and it's only 2 games, but I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if the Tigers and the Pirates split that, because they're both just average teams. Go to the ESPN Power Rankings, which doesn't take into account the past 3 games as you're listening, because you obviously have already experienced that first A's game. When Detroit was 4-0, they did get a significant bump from 22 to 14 in those power rankings, but it's still with the perspective of who they're playing, the time of year, and the fact that Detroit really is one of those teams where it's just be above 500 and this is a successful season, or you know, be in a position where near the trade deadline you feel confident that making moves can actually put you in a situation to make some noise. So all things being equal, enjoy what's going on, enjoy this kind of ease into the 2024 season. I think the season really kind of gets going once you have those 2 Minnesota series. You got the Texas one, Tampa Bay obviously will be a big one as well as we get deeper into April.
Yeah, I think the big thing is, you know, like looking at the standings when it comes to the AL Central, there's 2 teams you got to worry about. You know, the Twins should turn out to be pretty decent. And then obviously the Guardians, which I'm more concerned with the Guardians. They're on a 3-game win streak and they're plus 30 on the year already. And score differential, which is just bonkers. But that's the cool thing about like baseball. Like, baseball is weird, man. You're going to start to see some really weird score differentials popping out. Like the Diamondbacks already going to have one of the weirdest. They're 4-3 with a plus 21. Ugh. You know what I'm saying? So,
I mean, luck has a lot to play, but at the same time, if there's anything we've learned in baseball over the past couple of years with the new playoff system, you don't really want to be the number 1 team in the league. You want to be one of those teams playing from behind late in the season, scratching for a spot and playing with a lot of fire once we get into October. Obviously, that is a long, long way away, but we'll enjoy what's going on with the Tigers at the moment. Switching over to hockey before we take our first break. Seems like we're having the same conversation with the Red Wings, but I think that conversation is about to turn as sour as possible. Another 4-game losing streak to close out March. Losses on the road to Nashville, Washington, Carolina, and Florida. Obviously, overtime loss to Washington, shootout loss to Florida, and then you do recoup. You get the win back against Tampa on April Fool's Day, but as we're talking, we're preparing for Detroit to have to host the New York Rangers, who have, I believe, the best record in the National Hockey League. So good luck. And as things stand right now, the Red Wings are out of the playoffs spot. I believe they are, they're a point back from the Islanders. The Lightning have 93 points and probably already locked up that first wild card. So you're really looking at the Islanders at 83 points, the Capitals and Red Wings at 82 points apiece, and the Penguins with 81 points. And the Penguins are really kind of surging right now. They're on they're 6-2-2 in their past 10 and are on a 3-game winning streak as we're talking right now. The Red Wings will play the Capitals and the Penguins again before the season is over. Don't have another shot against the Islanders, though. DJ, thoughts on these last few games for the Red Wings? And there's 7 games to go. 2 of them are against a Montreal team that ain't going to matter if you beat them.
I mean, I think they matter. It just depends on like how things shake out above you. Every game at this point matters. You gotta win as many as you can. So having those 2 games at the end could be bankers, but it doesn't matter if you don't win some of these games in front. And that's my biggest thing is they just gotta win a couple of games now. They've won 1. Obviously that was just the last one, so they're on a 1-game win streak. They still have a +2 goal differential, but not as good as it used to be. So they got to win these games. No more overtime losses, no more losses.
I mean, quick answer. Does a 5-2 record in those last 7 games, does that get them in, you think?
Possibly. It all depends on what's happening with the Islanders. You know, they're 1 point ahead. So if they're losing any of those games, like you go 5-2, but they go 4-3 or they go, 2-5, whatever, you need help. They got to lose some games as many as you're winning.
Well, the Islanders close out with Nashville, Rangers, Montreal, Rangers, Devils, Penguins. So that might actually be in the Red Wings' favor. They have a much easier schedule by comparison. We'll pick a Red Wings game a little bit later. When we come back, we're actually going to talk some Final Four. Prepare you for the men's and women's Final Four games. Well, actually, you already know what happened in the women's, but nonetheless, we'll get to all of it here in the next segment on Mitten Madness, 95.3 WBCK. Here on Mitten Madness, 95.3 WBCK. Jacob Harrison and Da'Jzon Hughes. Let's talk some Final Four. March Madness, the inspiration for the show's name. I had my bracket busted a long time ago, right? South Carolina lost, and then things went pretty south after Clemson made it all the way to, I put my faith in the wrong 6th seed. Clemson making it all the way to the Elite 8. Alabama taking care of that. Also messed up my bracket. NC State making it all the way to the Final Four. I know that busted a lot of people's brackets, but nonetheless, I can still confidently sit here with the better bracket between the two of us, despite not being the basketball guy. 92.9%. Got a max at 1390 for my points. Got that little flame emoji next to my bracket's name. Feel pretty good.
I think we all got a flame emoji next to our brackets.
No, it goes away.
Mine is there.
I've definitely seen it go away.
My flame is there too, so, and I'm not that hot. No. I got 700 and I'm ranked in the 5 million. So I don't know what I'm doing with the flame there, but I got one.
Maybe they're trying to just spark some hope. Right?
They might be. Well, maybe it's because the flame might be due to your champion still being alive.
I think that is what it is.
That's the only reason I could think of why I have that. Because my bracket's not, there are a lot of red X's on this bracket.
Trust me.
So I think that is what's holding me in there. But no, this has been an amazing tournament, going all the way back to calling the Michigan State upset right away, knowing they were going to win that 9-8 game, to North Carolina State being the double-digit seed that's made it to the Final Four for like the 7th straight year in a row. We did lose the trend as all of the innuendo teams were knocked out in the first round instead of advancing like we were hoping to see. But no, this has literally just been such a great tournament. Purdue and Tennessee being a good game, Bama making their first Final Four, Clemson with their upset run, Tennessee doing their thing and getting to the Elite 8, even though many people thought they would lose to Creighton. You had the Illinois run, which almost looked okay in the first half, and then UConn became UConn and went on a 30-0 run. So just to see UConn kind of be who they said they were going to be all year has been refreshing. And then shout out NC State. Shout out NC State, because when Duke made the Elite Eight, I was like throwing a fit. I don't like Duke. Never liked Duke. Hate Duke. Christian Laettner, he started it all. Don't like him whatsoever. Still don't like Christian Laettner. And now Filipowski is just the new Christian Laettner. So that just regurgitated my hate for Duke. So I was really happy to see NC State kind of put an end to those guys and move on to the Final Four. So this weekend and Monday are going to be insane.
Yeah, I just want to say with UConn, their dominance through this. I know they had a relatively easy path in it, and it did get significantly easier when teams like Auburn, BYU, and Iowa State didn't make it as far as they were probably expected to. Illinois has a lot of talent, but not necessarily the gumption to stick up to UConn. So, everybody's favorite, I think 25% of brackets on ESPN pick UConn, mine's included in that. But their dominance throughout this tournament is very impressive. But also the nature of how Alabama has gotten there. And listen, I've picked Alabama to win the entire NCAA tournament within the past several years. This year, I was like, yeah, okay, they're going to make it to maybe the Sweet 16, but they are not getting past North Carolina if they have to play the Tar Heels. And somehow they pulled that off. And after that, it's like, okay, well, a Final Four is a definite possibility. They can beat Clemson. And now they have to stare down that UConn team. And, as an Alabama fan, I would love to see them cut down those nets or at the very least reach the national championship. But that seems like a pipe dream with the way these UConn Huskies have been playing. But to your point as well, to shout out NC State, that's one of those teams where you feel like a fool if you were like me and you picked Texas Tech in that first round. And not just because, that's the 11 seed, but it's one of those teams where if you kind of look back to the way that people were talking about NC State at the start of the tournament, they're like, hey, watch out for this team. And if you just kind of brushed off that hype and picked Texas Tech, now you feel like an idiot because the answer was right there in front of you, because all they needed was an opportunity to just make it past Texas Tech, and then they could make a lot of noise. They got the lucky draw with Oakland beating Kentucky. They were able to pull that one out and then show up big against Marquette and bust my Final Four projections, even though Arizona kind of helped out with that in the beginning. Purdue's doing their thing, though. Gotta say, from my perspective, it certainly feels like Purdue is the most likely team of these four to go home as far as gut feelings go. It would be, I don't know, too predictable for it to be UConn Purdue. The run that NC State has been on has been so impressive, and Purdue has obviously won all of these games convincingly. They did have to put up, a considerable fight against Tennessee, but Zach Edey's been playing out of his mind and so on and so forth. Still, that possibility exists. So, as you mentioned, absolutely incredible tournament that we have been enjoying all throughout March and now into the first week of April. We'll pick those two games in the next segment, or excuse me, not in the next segment, in the final segment. I want to touch on the women's tournament real quick. Obviously, everybody listening will have already known what the national championship game is going to be. Most of what I want to talk about with the women's tournament is not necessarily the matchups. It's the eyes that have been on women's basketball this year. It's not just because of Caitlin Clark. She obviously plays such a massive, massive role in it, but looking at watching these games that she's been a part of and seeing the way Angel Reese goes about her business, and now I'm looking forward to watching Buchers do the same thing with the Huskies. You've got South Carolina in their undefeated streak on the line against NC State. Props to Wolfpack Nation for being one of the two teams in both Final Fours. But just the attention that women's basketball is getting right now is wildly impressive, and it's really good to see.
I mean, to me, maybe it's because I've always been tied into the women's basketball realm, but this year there's a heightened view on it, which I think is a little more detrimental to women's basketball than a lot of people are really understanding. They're all leaving. Yeah. Those numbers are going to go right back down. Juju Watkins is going to do a lot to keep that around, and so will Malaysia Fulwiley, who are both phenomenal freshmen. But those numbers are going to drop. big time. And I don't think the WNBA numbers are going to go any higher. So, like, it's a weird phenomenon that happens every couple years where, like, the women's tournament is super good and so many people are tuned in, and then it just disappears.
But this is the biggest that it's ever been. And I feel like there's still that point because even if, so come at it from my perspective where the only names I know are the ones that I just listed off, right? And the ones that you mentioned with Juju. But watching the other girls that are a part of these teams that have these superstars on them, you see these girls can play. Like and I don't mean that to come from a condescending tone. It's just there is an entertainment value there, especially during the tournaments. So I do understand where you're coming from because it could be some time before we see the effects of this season on on women's basketball and also the WNBA. It kind of goes in line with a thought that I've had for a long time, and it's that women's sports need these superstars and they need these personalities that stack up and grab your attention and grab headlines, and women that are willing to go out there and do things that haven't been done before. I mean, these logo threes from Clark and the passion with which an Angel Reese plays with, prowess of a Juju Watkins, those type of things permeate, right? And it's something new to see. And I think if eyes are able to stay on women's basketball, I think a lot of people will see there's plenty of new things to get from that sport if they just stick with it.
I think the difference is, like, the NBA is about excitement. What is exciting to see? Like, why are you drawing me to the game? What is the experience of the game? You don't get that in the WNBA. But college sports are college sports. A college basketball game, regardless if it's men's or women's, is going to be exciting because it's a college basketball game. They're not looking for the same things in it. They're just looking for a close game where an upset might happen. Like, that's pretty much what college sports are based off of. Is a good game that's close, has you pulled to the side of your chair, you're looking for an upset. You just don't really get that in the WNBA. And the stars have always been there, but it's just never been enough. And, like, I've had this conversation quite a bit. Like, what's going to make the change is making it more appealing. What's more appealing? Dunks. But they don't want to go that route in the route that it would take to make dunks more applicable in the WNBA. They don't want to take that route. So we're kind of been going through this ebb and flow situation where it's really good college basketball that people like to watch with the women's game, and they get to the WNBA and it's nothing.
I agree to a point. I think the thing that you can get out of the women's side is what Caitlin Clark has provided. To be the biggest name in women's sports, and she doesn't dunk. She's drawn all this attention. She does all of her lethal action occurs outside of the arc. So I think not all of it. Her passing prowess is something else, but she does a lot of that in transition too. So there is a path, I think, that doesn't require that avenue, but it is a more difficult path. I will say that. At the very least, it helps to at least broken a barrier to the point where you've had a superstar the level that Caitlin Clark is, for her to have also used that star power to shine lights on the Angel Reeses of the world, and knowing there's a Juju Watkins to kind of pick up that slack over the next couple of years. I think all of those things help to kind of get that ball rolling. I think that's the biggest thing. You're not wrong. There's been plenty of stars. There's probably better basketball players than Caitlin Clark over the years. But to have a momentum of stars to keep people invested, that is necessary. Because look at the men's side. Like, the men's side is fun. It's not a bad tournament. We were just talking about how great of a tournament it is. Not a lot of stars in that tournament, and that's why viewership is down on that side and up on the other side. So star power plays a huge role. So if the women's game keeps evolving, keeps getting more fun, and there's star power there, that can do just as much good as anything else. But we'll take a break. When we come back, we've got a couple of things to touch on, including the UFL. We'll talk some Panthers and more here on Mitten Madness, 95.3 W.
Detroit sports fans, Wolverines and Spartans alike, this is your sports show, Mitten Madness, with Jacob Harrison and Da'Jzon Hughes on 95.3 WBCK.
Back here on Mitten Madness, 95.3 WBCK. Jacob Harrison and Da'Jzon Hughes. Got a couple of things to dive into in this segment. I think where we're going to start is one of the games that we had on the picks segment last week was the Michigan Panthers taking on the St. Louis Battlehawks in the UFL opening weekend. And DJ, I don't know if you knew this. I'm a Battlehawks fan. Cacaw Nation is where I reside.
I knew that because of AJ McCarron.
Well, that is not why. I when the XFL first started, that was Battlehawks, just the team I chose. I thought their logo was awesome. I thought their name was awesome. St. Louis football was back. Not that I have any ties to that region. Just good for St. Louis, right? AJ McCarron coming back and having the time of his life, though, certainly helps. But that is 100% the reason that I chose the Battlehawks last week in picks. But they lost. And they lost in a bizarre fashion in Ford Field when the Panthers had a kicker kick a 64-yard field goal as time expired to win the game for the Michigan Panthers. We were joking before the show that both the UFL's and the NFL's longest field goal was kicked in Ford Field, and it's kind of bizarre that this kid for the Panthers hadn't even kicked a field goal since high school, and he matched something that not only the best kicker in the NFL today did, and is the only one to ever do it, but probably the best kicker the NFL has ever had. Nonetheless, don't know if you got the chance to watch that game. I didn't. I was down in Alabama doing everything else, but thoughts on how the Panthers were able to get things started and to start 1-0 against one of the favorites in the league. Battlehawks were projected to be one of the better teams in the league. It's a 10-week season, and the Panthers, who weren't projected as such, are 1-0, and the Battlehawks aren't.
It feels very reminiscent to the Lions' first game of the year against the Chiefs. Just like some struggle points, but they were just able to get it done toward the end of the game. And they're kind of just picking up off the vibes the rest of the Michigan football teams have had this year. Been some good football in Michigan this year, and to me the Panthers are only adding to that, which I think is amazing for fans of football here in Michigan. That's super huge, and I'm just surprised honestly that they came out with a victory. The Battlehawks were a front runner this year to do well in their conference and to get into the playoffs and possibly be a championship contender, and for the Panthers to come out and kind of pull a win away from them toward the end of the game and literally in the last seconds of the game grab it away from them says a lot about that locker room and what they're trying to do this year.
The Battlehawks were the biggest odds favorite last week. They were 6.5 point favorites. Only the DC Defenders over the Brahmas, which I think the Brahmas ended up winning that game too. You could have won some money last week if you just took the underdogs. Well, not necessarily. If you'd have taken those and then taken the other two, obvious ones with the Stallions and the Showboats, you could have won some money if you're into that sort of thing. Nonetheless, Panthers get through. They got E.J. Perry at quarterback, good wide receiver in John Hightower, and that kicker, Jake Bates, was the one to send it through. Jake Bates is getting looks at the NFL. Good for him. The Lions do need a kicker, so maybe pay attention to those 269 area codes. Just saying.
Just saying.
Speaking of Detroit, though, real quick, we're going to touch on the Detroit Pistons. Pistons have 6 games left. When we talk next, they'll have 2 games left. And by that point, they could have already clinched it's not quite that likely, but they could have already clinched the worst record in the NBA for the second straight season. Somehow the Washington Wizards have been able to get around that, even though Pistons did win their last matchup against Washington. Nonetheless, Detroit is 2 games back from the Wizards for the worst record in the NBA. To close out the season, they are on the road for they're on the road for every one of these games except for one. The Grizzlies, Nets, Sixers, at home for the Bulls, closing out with the Mavs and the Spurs. DJ, any confidence Detroit picking up a win or 2 in that stretch to not be given the best odds, quote unquote, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, for the first overall pick in the the 2024 NBA lottery?
Confidence? No. Hope? Yeah, because I want them to not be in a position they were in last year, where they definitely should have been higher in the draft and ended up being the 5th. Like, to me, I think they do the draft very wrong. Since you start 14-1, I feel like the teams that are at the bottom should have the least amount of balls, giving them the least opportunity to be picked before 1. But instead, they do it the other way around. So the Pistons just got to make sure they win games, unless they want to just not win. I don't know anymore. I just want them to not be this bad next year.
That much is true. Kind of a light draft class, so bring on the jokes that the Pistons should draft Caitlin Clark or Angel Reese. But nonetheless, that will all unfold. If they do lose out, the Pistons will finish the season with a 13-69 record, which sounds pretty appropriate all the way around. Last thing we want to talk about in this segment real quick is JJ McCarthy. If you go to WBCKFM.com, see an article that I wrote recently, NFL draft, and it would be kind of bizarre for Wolverine fans that double as Detroit Lions fans, because JJ McCarthy, the last time he was, publicly in Michigan, it was for celebrations of winning the 2024 College Football Playoff National Championship, and the very next time he could be in Michigan publicly will be for the NFL draft in Detroit, and all signs are pointing towards him hoisting up a purple number 1 jersey for the Minnesota Vikings. Most mock drafts that you look at pair him with the Vikings. Most of those do involve the Vikings having to trade up. Ironically enough, most of those also involve trading up with the Chargers, which are coached by Jim Harbaugh. The odds of Jim Harbaugh just trading away Justin Herbert and taking JJ himself, they're not zero. I'll just say that. Not likely, but not zero. DJ, I know you're not a Lions fan, and even McCarthy isn't himself. He actually grew up a Bears fan, so he would still be playing for a rival, but it wouldn't be the same type of rival. The Bears are only interested in Caleb Williams. Any feeling whatsoever, though? You are at least still a Packers fan, to have to see the national championship winning quarterback for your favorite college football team have to play quarterback for one of your NFL team's rivals.
I would personally want him to not play for the Vikings.
Could you just not, please?
That's it. Just don't play for the Vikings. That's how I feel about it. But I think it's well deserved. He's been an amazing quarterback. He fits into the pro system. He knows how to make people around himself better. He's very focused on being a good NFL quarterback. No matter who gets him, they're going to get a great quarterback, and he's going to make the most of his opportunity there. I just don't want to see him twice a year, maybe once and sometimes none, depending on where he ends up going. But if it's 2, I'm not going to be happy about it.
So I'm going to give you the ultimatum then. The 3 most likely teams to draft JJ McCarthy, according to FanDuel betting odds, are first, the Minnesota Vikings, who would again have to trade up for that opportunity. The team with the number 3 overall pick, the New England Patriots, and the team with the number 2 overall pick, the Washington Commanders. Of those 3, horrid situations to have to go into for many a different reason. Which one would you begrudgingly choose to send JJ McCarthy to?
Between
the Vikings, the Patriots, and the Commanders, the 3 most likely teams, according to betting odds, to draft him.
I guess the Commanders. Because I don't want him in Minnesota. That would be good for him, though. If he ends up there, I won't complain too much. I'm not sending him over to New England. That's an awful place.
You don't think it's going to be better under Jared Mayo?
It's an awful place. I'm not talking about the facility.
Oh, you're not talking about the Patriots. You're just talking about Boston.
I'm just talking about Northeast. It's not a good place over there. I don't want him over there. He doesn't deserve that. That's all that comes down to.
Don't want him to go the way of Mac Jones.
I'm more than fine with wherever he ends up, honestly.
I hear you. I think the Vikings, while it's a weird situation, in this niche kind of reason, landing in Minnesota would not be a bad thing. You got Aaron Jones in your backfield. You got Justin Jefferson on the outside. You got TJ Hawkinson at tight end. You've got a solid offensive line. Not a great one. Kirk Cousins was put on his back quite a bit, but JJ McCarthy is significantly more athletic than Kirk Cousins ever was. So I don't think it would be a bad situation for him. It would just look a little weird seeing him in purple, knowing that he's a Bears fan who played in front of a lot of Lions fans. But nonetheless, I think that is going to wrap up that segment and send us into picks. We've got a variety of things to choose from, and we'll do that next here on Mitten Madness, 95.3 WBCK.
95.3 WBCK.
Back here on Mitten Madness 95.3 WBCK, Jacob Harrison and Da'Jzon Hughes. Let's get into our picks. First, as usual, DJ, let them know how we all finished last week.
We all went 3-3. Me and you obviously had the exact same picks. The only thing Meatball did differently than us was he took the Avalanche, but he also went against us somewhere else. Oh, he took the Red Wings instead of the Panthers. So that's how we all ended up 3-3. So now you are at 22-20 on the year. I'm at 20-22. Right behind you still, just 2 games back. You are clinging on for the time being.
I thought I was sub 500. That excuse me. That sounds kind of good, actually. I'll take that. All right, let's get into this and let's get started. I think I'm going to start us in the UFL, and I'm going to take the game that is the most exciting of the 2 games that are between 0-1 teams. Kind of interesting how it worked out. All 4 games are either between 0-1 teams or 1-0 teams. The Renegades, who were the final XFL champions, lost to the final USFL champions, Birmingham Stallions, last week. While they were not the favorites in that game, they're still expected to be one of the best teams in the league, and yet they're 0-1. The St. Louis Battlehawks, very much same thing. We talked about it in the last segment, how the Panthers came from behind and kicked a record 64-yard field goal in Ford Field to beat the Battlehawks despite being 6.5-point dogs. So the Renegades and Battlehawks are both in week 2 looking for their first win in a season that's only 10 weeks long. So it's an imperative one between 2 of the better teams in the league on paper. DJ, who wins it between the Renegades and the Battlehawks?
Well, Renegades are defending champions. They both took tough losses last week, but in my opinion, the Renegades lost a game to a better team, and the Stallions, who are also a defending champ, whereas the Panthers were kind of a wild card this year that nobody really looked to know what was going to happen, and the Battlehawks came in and kind of let them steal one away at the end. So I think I trust the Renegades just a tad bit more.
The Battlehawks are point favorites in this game, and they're at home, and the Battlehawks are unequivocally the most popular team in this league. So to play in front of their home fans, as a reminder, aren't competed against with any other team except maybe the Chiefs, right? St. Louis fans don't have anything else to really cheer for other than the Battlehawks. So they're going to be there in full force cheering on AJ McCarron, Wayne Gallman, Hakeem Butler, and all those guys down there in the Battlehawks Dome at America Center in St. Louis. Give me the Battlehawks. Kaka.
Well, I'll keep it on the gridiron in the UFL, and I'll take my poke at, let's say, the Stallions. The Stallions are making their way up here to the Mitten. They'll be playing at Ford Field this weekend on Sunday, at noon. ESPN Plus. They're both 1-0. Stallions still, off their winning streak, which extends back to last year at this point after winning their playoffs. And then the Panthers coming in, shocking everyone with a 64-yard field goal in Ford Field. Do they have the home magic again this week, or are the Stallions going to be able to make something happen?
The short answer is no, and the long answer is hell no. The Birmingham Stallions are 6.5-point favorites, and they're the best team in the league. I think they proved that by beating the Renegades last week. Sure, it's still early, but you're not stopping Matt Corral and these guys for the Birmingham Stallions. Way too much momentum. Give me the Roll Tide, Roll Stallions combo.
That's an interesting combo that I'm just not going to comment on.
Bo Scarborough was the MVP last year.
Hey, you do.
I know he retired, but
do your thing over there. Okay. I'm not tripping at all. I'm actually going to ride with you this week. I'm going to go with the Stallions as well. I do think this is going to be an interesting game playing back here. As much as Michigan loves its football, there's people out and watching those games. So being a Panthers fan is going to be something that becomes legit soon, but the Stallions are still just really good.
So we've got another UFL game, but in between that, I've got the Red Wings, Sunday game. It's at 1:00. They're in Little Caesars Arena. They're going to host the Buffalo Sabres. Now, the Red Wings do have another game in between, so I don't have too much in the way of favorites and percentage chances to win or anything like that. The Red Wings do lead the series 2-1. They've won they won one on the road and one the most recent one at home. This one at home again, and they desperately need it in the playoff race. The Sabres are right behind them in that race for the second wild card spot. DJ, who wins it? Red Wings, Sabres.
The Wings need this one bad. They've been struggling the last 5. They've only got 1 win out of that group. The Sabres have been pretty much going every other game, which seems to tie into this factor, unless the Sabres play tonight, as we're recording this on Friday. If they play on Friday, the Wings may be in some trouble because they're probably going to lose that game, which means they would beat the Wings on Sunday. But the Wings, especially if they're going to be coming off a tough game against the Rangers that you guys saw yesterday, I got to go with the Wings. I think the Wings have to win in order to keep their playoff hopes alive, and they're ahead of Buffalo in that circumstance. So it kind of means a little bit more to the Wings than it does the Sabres.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with the Red Wings as well, and not necessarily for the homer aspect or anything like that. It's just because the Red Wings haven't, although they're 4-1 in their last 5, it's not necessarily that they're playing so badly. You lose one in overtime to Washington. You really wish you could have that one back. But you also lose 3-2 in a shootout with Florida, who's one of the best teams in the entire league. Only 1-0 loss to Nashville on the road. All this coming off of a 5-game road trip. The Sabres have been at home for the past 4 games. The Sabres are 17, 16, and 4 on the road, while the Red Wings are 21, 11, and 5 at home. Give me the Red Wings.
Back to the gridiron real quick before we close it out with the best action of the weekend. The Brahmas and Showboats are doing their thing out on the football field in the UFL. They both were 1-0 last week as the Brahmas came out with a strong victory over the Defenders 27-12, kind of handling that even though they were seen as a underdog in that game. The Showboats in a much closer battle with the Houston Roughnecks 18-12, and they kind of showed that they had the grit to win a close game. Are you counting on this one being another close one and the Showboats pulling it out, or will the Brahmas continue to win by 2-score plus domination?
I get the impression the Showboats, which is a horrible team name, by the way, I get the impression the Showboats are a middle of the road team and the Brahmas are one of the best teams in the league. So I think that 2.5 point favorite for the Brahmas is actually a little low. I think the Brahmas win this one, not necessarily with ease, but I think they win it convincingly, well over the spread.
Honestly, from what I saw last week in the Defenders game, that was a Sunday game, so I was able to get watch a little bit of that after I got out of church, and the Brahmas look good. They didn't look spectacular or amazing or anything, but you can tell that they're starting to warm up. 10 weeks is a long season. Like, it's not short, but it's not long either. It's kind of the perfect timing. So as they're going to continue to get better over practice and games, their scores are only going to get better. They're only going to look better. Their defense is only going to get tighter, which those things already look solid in week 1. So I expect them to build off of that and take care of the Showboats in week 2.
All right, let's get to the final 4 in the men's bracket of the NCAA tournament. We've got, I'm taking that game, not the other one. I've got the Purdue Boilermakers, the number 1, not overall seed, but they are the number 1 seed in their bracket. They are going to host, Purdue's going to play NC State. NC State's the 11th seed, Purdue's the number 1 seed. Let's make this as simple as possible. Purdue is a 9.5 point favorite on an over-under of 146.5. The Wolfpack have a 10.4% chance of victory, and they look at that and say, we weren't favored against Texas Tech, Marquette, or Duke, and look at where we are now. Purdue has won convincingly in every single one of their games, though they did have to have a bit more fight in them to take down Tennessee. Nonetheless, Purdue, how many years is it in a row have they lost to a 10 seed or lower in the NCAA tournament?
Too many.
Too many is a good answer. So not everything is in Purdue's breadbasket, though they do have the AP Player of the Year in Zach Edey on their team. So I can stop stumbling over my words. DJ, who's going to win this game? Boilermakers, Wolfpack.
As much as it's going to hurt me to say this, I know we know who's going to come out on top of this one, in my opinion. I love NC State and everything they've done. They've been a phenomenal team to watch. It's exciting. DJ Burns Jr. is great. DJ Horn is great. Their atmosphere is amazing. We love Cinderella runs, but they all strike midnight eventually. They all come to an end at some point, and I think that's this weekend. Purdue has the inevitable in Zach Edey. And yes, DJ Burns is good. He's got nice size, but he cannot guard Zach Edey in the post.
There's a big difference between 6'9" and 7'4".
And I mean, even not even that point, just Zach Edey's footwork inside is insane. He has some of the best footwork in the nation, not even just college, but pro as well. who play pro post that cannot move the way Zach Edey does and then still have amazing touch at the rim to make it drop in. So I think that's going to be a big problem with them. And if they're overcompensating for that and they're kicking out hitting threes, it's going to be a long night for NC State. So I've got Purdue.
I want to take NC State bad. I've mentioned it in passing a couple of times during the show and off the air that it feels like the more likely upset is NC State over Purdue. The problem is NC State's best player might be on an NFL practice squad next year. Purdue's best player is going to be in the NBA next year. And you listed off all the reasons why Zach Edey is such a difference maker on the court. And not to mention, if you want to play into this aspect of it, he's not exactly getting a lot of calls against him in this tournament. So lean with the smart money. 9.5 points is a lot of confidence from the desert. So I'm not going to stare that one in the face and tempt fate. I will also take Purdue.
Last game of the week, UConn and your Alabama Crimson Tide. Crimson Tide making their first appearance in a NCAA men's Final Four. It's going to be a big game. We know what's coming out of this. Everybody is expecting UConn to beat Bama. Everybody's expecting UConn to win again. The spread is a whopping 11.5 points in favor of UConn. 72% on this matchup predictor. This is out in Glendale, Arizona, State Farm Stadium. Who you got?
In Mark Sears, Grant Nelson, and Aaron Estrada we trust. In Nate Oates, our savior. No, come on. Look, I haven't picked an Alabama basketball game right all year, especially when I choose them.
So you're going with reverse psychology.
Well, listen, I would rather get the game wrong and Alabama win than get the game wrong and Alabama lose. So I'm gonna take the Huskies because they're the best freaking team in basketball. And honestly, I don't care how much of a homer you are, you'd be a fool to confidently pick Alabama over UConn. UConn is so stupid good.
We almost did it again. Here it is. Purdue, UConn, Red Wings, Stallions, Brahmas. The same for us. I've got the Renegades. You've got the Battlehawks. It's the only thing keeping us different. Send us out of here on your birthday, my good sir.
All right, that's going to do it for us this week. Next week, we'll be back at 10. We'll discuss the fallout of the championships. We'll continue to cover the Tigers and the Red Wings as as the Red Wings and the Pistons seasons come to a close, or potentially, I guess, Red Wings could make the playoffs. And the Tigers season gets started. We'll also continue to cover the UFL with the Michigan Panthers. NFL draft season is here, and before you know it, it'll be NBA draft season as well. A lot of fun stuff. It's not the off season just because the NFL is off and just because college sports are coming to an end. There's plenty to talk about around the Mitten on Mitten Madness. 95.3 WBCK.
Join Jacob Harrison and Da'Jzon Hughes every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. for Mitten Madness on 95.3 WBCK. Miss the show or want to play it back? Stream Mitten Madness live or on demand on the 95.3 WBCK app.